Hi guys, this is Erica from Gokce Capital. Now before I begin, be sure to click subscribe and turn on the notification bell. In 1985, Arnold and Martha Hilgeford filed a quiet title action against their mortgagee, the People's Bank, which was seeking to foreclose on the Hilgefords after they had defaulted on their mortgage. Sometime after they had taken out their mortgage, but before the foreclosure action commenced, the Hilgefords had drafted and recorded a land patent for their property. They now claim that this patent gave them unassailable title, thereby invalidating any right the bank may have to foreclose on their property and evict them. So what do you think happened in this case? Suffice it to say, things did not turn out how the Hilgefords planned. But if you have heard of similar cases or are simply curious about what a land patent is, and whether it can invalidate any existing encumbrances or exempt you from property taxes, here are the top things you should know. Number 1. A land patent is a legal document issued by the federal government that grants an individual title to publicly held land. A patent is, for most intents and purposes, similar to any other kind of deed, and it can be treated as such. Number 2. Land patents were commonly issued by the Federal General Land Office in the 1800s to homesteaders or other settlers settling land west of the territory held by the original 13 colonies. Patents were issued when the General Land Office sold publicly held land, and lands that were originally conveyed via patent encompass much of the western U.S. Number 3. The General Land Office eventually became the Bureau of Land Management, which is what we know it as today. The BLM, or Bureau of Land Management, is still the agency that maintains and administers all historic land patent records. And so if you would like to look up a historic land patent, you would go to the BLM Land Patent Search. Number 4. You can use the BLM Land Patent Search to find information about your ancestors. This is because land patents and application papers can provide a wealth of information on an ancestor, including their name, residence, and in some circumstances, previous residences, citizenship applications, marriage, or death certificates. Number 5. Land held with a land patent is still subject to property taxes and land use regulations. I have heard some folks claim that once you have traced your property back to the original land patent and then filed appropriate paperwork giving you the same rights as that original patent holder, then you will not be subject to any state or local regulations such as the requirement to pay property taxes or follow zoning and building codes. My understanding is the argument goes something like this. The land patent is a contract between the federal government and the private landholder, and thus cannot be superseded by state or local governments. Well, this idea is false. Title held by a patent is subject to all of the same limitations as any other privately owned land. A land patent should, for all intents and purposes, really be thought of as any other kind of deed. So if someone says otherwise, they are either misinformed or making an ideological argument that is not going to hold up in court. But of course, as with anything related to legal concepts, you should always consult a local attorney. Number 6, in a similar vein, land held with a land patent may still be foreclosed upon. Property obtained through a land patent or that can be traced back to original land patent may be used as collateral in a contract and thus can be encumbered as with any other privately held land. But the misunderstanding may come from language in Section 4 of the Homestead Act, which states that no lands acquired under provisions of this act shall become liable to satisfaction of any debt or debts contracted prior to issuing of the patent. Now, the Homestead Act has been repealed, but even if it hadn't been, the intention of this language was to prevent someone from making a homestead claim, then immediately giving the land to someone else in order to satisfy an existing debt. Because the Homestead Act's intention was to sell public land to settlers who were going to use the property as their homestead, the Homestead Act did have a 5-year wait period between the acceptance of a homesteader's initial application and the issuance of the final patent. And during this period, the homesteader could not use the land as collateral for any kind of contract. Which brings us back to the Hilgefords. Their case against the People's Bank went to the District Court for the North District of Indiana. The judge quickly ruled that the Hilgefords' action of granting themselves a land patent was a self-serving, gratuitous activity that did not by itself create unalienable title. Furthermore, the judge ruled that their case was so frivolous it warranted a fine. On appeal, the United States Court of Appeals ruled the same. The Hilgefords not only lost their motion, but they were forced to pay a fine equivalent to $1,270 in today's money. But this case was not an isolated incident. It's possible that you may still run across companies that will claim to help you avoid property taxes or foreclosure by filing a federal patent on your behalf. And Hilgeford versus People's Bank is just one of many rulings across multiple states finding such claims to be not only invalid, but frivolous to the point of warranting a fine. The United States Supreme Court has clearly stated in Wilcox versus Jackson that once title has passed from the federal government to private ownership, it is subject to the same limitations as any other lands under state jurisdiction. As one judge said in a ruling in a similar case, the way to obtain clear title is to pay one's debts. There is no legal loophole. But do you have any stories or thoughts about land patents? Let us know in the comments. Did you like this video? You're going to love our Gokce Land Due Diligence program. We'll make you a land due diligence expert in just 7 days. Check it out at gokcecapital.com/glad. And while you're at our website, don't forget to explore our $1 down listings at gokcecapital.com/listings. Finally, don't hesitate to reach out. You can email, call, or text, and we will respond as soon as possible. So thank you for listening, and more to come.